Hello, and welcome to Riders of the Reels. I'm Emilio.
I'm Adam.
We're going to be taking you through the Odyssey, the wonderful journey that we have just witnessed.
Yeah, let's get right into it.
Right, yeah. So I was curious, just first off, right off the bat, what was your first takeaway?
First takeaway was it was good. Like I was genuinely surprised. I mean, I read a lot of negative, heard a lot of negative things about it, preconcepted things, and you should just watch it before making an opinion of the movie. How about you?
Yeah, no, I was in the same similar boat. I did hear a lot of, discontent with the newest trailer that came out recently on it, but as soon as I was sucked into the world of it, I immediately was blown away. I feel like it's going to be an epic of this decade. I think it's close to that category already of it didn't surpass Lord of the Rings to me, but I think it has that scale that encapsulates a whole new world that we know and just putting it
Okay.
visually on screen.
Okay. I feel you. We're not comparing to Lord of the Rings yet, but I did pop in my head though, like Lord of the Rings esque, like the way it was filmed and everything, and like locations. But I'm like, it's still not Lord of the Rings.
No.
It was a great movie, I think, but yeah, just still nothing compares to that. But
Yes. It's a
yeah,
triumph in its own right. But
yeah, no, yeah, I think it's a very well directed movie, and you could definitely like go into that, like things that you saw. I mean, that's expected with Nolan, obviously, and I think there's some flaws with like the actual script and whatnot, but the how it's directed really enhances the movie.
yes. Yeah, his direction, as always, you can tell it's a Nolan film from the start. I think one of the biggest strengths I noticed when I watched it, and let me know if you think this too, is he's always so good he's the time weaver. He's the ultimate time weaver in film. I mean, the only director that I can thoroughly enjoy through a complicated storyline thread between 20 years and do it successfully is Nolan, to me. You have other great movies that are typically linear and can tell a unique story, but for him to go back and forth between so many diverse characters and know which direction he wanted to root out that emotion, I think was impactful.
Yeah.
Like through
No, yeah.
Odysseus's journeys.
Yeah, no, I like that. And this one, it starts out with his like classic non-linear sort of thing, and that kind of scared me because though I like that in a Nolan film, such as like Memento or The Prestige, like all these different things happening, like they're jumping back and forth with the flashbacks here in the Odyssey at the beginning. And I wasn't liking it, to be honest. It was like feeling confusing the first 20, 30 minutes for me, and I was thinking like, oh no, it's like I'm not going to like this movie. And then once it got to like Odysseus's adventures and recalling of his story and started with the Cyclops, I really got into it from there, like glued to
Mhm.
the screen after that. But it was like a weird slow start for me.
Yeah, the first 30 minutes, I agree entirely. It was, at least to me, it was dialogue slow. I know it was like build up to a lot of like explaining who these characters are for people who might not be familiar with it. Um, I think that could have been streamlined a bit or headlined a little bit quicker. I don't know if you had this problem too, but kind of the first 30 minutes, there was trying to think of specifically, and I'm blanking a bit on it, but there was a couple moments where the transitions between scenes was so quick that when a character was done talking about something that was like supposed to be powerful or
Yeah.
suspenseful or emotional, it happened too quickly, and I kind of was like, I needed an extra minute to see their reaction. Or I think it was more with like Tom Holland and Penelope, um,
Yeah.
when they had certain moments. I needed more, or I wanted a little more.
No, yeah, now that you mentioned that, it did kind of feel that way. And then also, I wanted to ask, I've guess Nolan struggled with this in the past, and I guess with the IMAX recording, there's something with like the sound that is like tough. But the first 30 minutes, I could not hear what they were saying.
Yeah.
Like I just like I'm like, dude, is my theater like playing this wrong? Like I'm like, there's no way I'm gonna sit here trying to like listen on this big screen.
Yes. Yeah, no, I speaking of, I don't know if you saw a video. I saw one though where they were shooting with the huge IMAX box camera, and they retrofitted it a bit to help with the sound design. But you can hear the clicking as the film reel is going through.
Yeah.
And they had, I forgot how they specifically had to fix the audio, but I wonder if that played into that part because it's loud hearing the video
Yeah.
just like being on set. So I could almost imagine as the actors between each other in those moments, like you got to be so focused to
Yeah.
not
Yeah,
let
no,
that
it's
distract you.
just yeah, just really quiet, like especially like scenes of like Penelope and I don't even know what Tom Holland's character's name
I
was.
yeah
Telekinesis. Like we're gonna struggle with the names in this.
yes.
I mean, we read the Odyssey back in school, but that's
Mhm.
the last time I have any like recollection of this story. So it all felt new to me, but we get the gist of like who the characters are pretty quick, even though it was a little confusing with the flashbacks.
Yes. The oh yeah no. I'm going to struggle with a couple of the characters' names too. There's only a few that I really remember, but I got it. I was curious. What were your thoughts on? I think his name is Antonius or Antonius, Pattinson's, or
Ooh.
Pattinson's character, because I at first was a little bit like, he had great lines, and I think at the first little bit I was like, okay, I don't know if he's gonna fully play off this kind of like squeamish, kind of creepy, deceptive type guy, villain. But
Yeah.
literally the second scene that I saw him with, and when he had that moment talking with Penelope behind that like the weave curtain, I was all in with his character like from that moment.
Yeah, I think Pattinson was one of the bright spots. We could talk about like some of like the whole cast, or at least like the bigger people, because the cast was a huge draw for
Mhm.
people. Obviously, Nolan picked some A-list actors, but
Yes.
yeah, I think Pattinson did a great job. Like it was a little weird with like the English accents, I guess, like modern dialogue, and Pattinson's really felt that way, I guess. But after a
Mhm.
while, like yeah, I hated that character in a
Oh
good
my
way.
god.
Like he just like, dude, that guy is such a little scumbag, little rat, and like I, yeah, like he was good. He was good.
Oh my gosh, yeah. No, it's especially that last sequence at the end, which we can dive into that last sequence, later on too. But just the way he was like standing behind a pillar and like grab the shields, grab all like he was
Yeah,
such like a character that would not put himself in actual danger scenarios, but was just like I'm just gonna be my squeamish little snake rat character in this corner. Not doing.
yeah. Yeah. And by the way, anyone watching or listening, there will be spoilers
There
for
will be.
this. Potential. I mean,
Yes.
definitely will be spoilers. I mean, we all know the
Absolutely.
Odyssey story, but just so you're not thrown off. But yeah, Pattinson, that last scene, we could get to the ending when we get to it. But yeah, that just
Yes.
bothered me so bad. Just
Oh
like,
my god.
but yeah, meaning he was really good. But yeah, he was one of the bright spots. I think Matt Damon surprised me as Odysseus. Like
Yes.
I don't know, like you think of like just Jason Bourne or like whatever, but he made that character his own. Like even just like
Yes.
the younger version versus the older version, I bought it even though he's 55 years old in both versions. But they like did a good job with makeup or whatever they did to pull that
Absolutely.
off.
I think it almost helped to one of the I love how he starts off the film a time of apparent magic, and I think that almost helps me like understand and believe everything that happens within the film, especially with his character. Given he's been gone for 20 years, he's gotten a lot older. How he's physically being able to do these things. That initial sequence title card thing helps explain to that extent and so many other things.
Yeah.
But he sold it as like I did not really for once stare at him and be like, this is Matt Damon. Like I was just enveloped in his character. You could tell obviously who he looks like, but he sold it. I think he's going to go up for nomination for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Gross.
For sure. I mean,
Yeah.
you just said like you didn't view Matt Damon, and with him I didn't. But I won't lie, with some of the casting, I kind of did view him as like
Yes.
who they were, just because a lot of them
Who, for
didn't get
instance?
it.
Yeah.
For instance, honestly, I didn't like Tom Holland in this one that much personally. I just maybe I just view him as Spider-Man. I mean, and that's just my issue, but
Yes.
I just think he was outacted even as well, like Pattinson, like all of them just straight mogging Tom Holland, just like the whole time. Like I don't know, like facial expressions, this and that. It's just it was hard to like buy into it, and I don't know. I think they could have found somebody else to play
Hmm.
that role.
I agree. I agree to an extent because the scenes that he was given with and the character he kind of had to portray because Odysseus' son, if I'm pretty sure, just as it was in the book, he's not supposed to be like this overwhelming threat or extent to the other suitors around there. So I felt like he played into that character that doesn't have the initial strength, the initial confidence, verbiage to stand up to these people. But I do agree with like it felt a little odd because even though Tom Holland can play that sort of character really well, he's to me I still view him as more of a lovable type actor and still a stronger one, even as Spider-Man. And I feel like he needed more strength to him. That's why even towards the end in those fight sequences, I wanted a little bit more than just the one kind of like
Yeah,
finishing blow he had. I think he could have portrayed Nolan could have portrayed a little bit more and gone off from the book
yeah.
to emphasize that more.
No, yeah, I
Personal thought.
agree there. I just think obviously need to draw people in, get them in the seats, which I think people would have came to watch us regardless. But I think a lot of these roles could have just been played with like a lower level or like up and coming actor, I guess. I mean, another one that comes to mind, like Zendaya, she did fine for what she was, but like was wasn't in it much, and
Yes. Yeah, the sequences she had, I think the one that got me the most because again, yeah, she had I want to say maybe like 3 minutes of screen time, if that, and half of the time it was like in silence, and when she was speaking with Odysseus. But to me, at least, the one moment that I was like, she sold it for me, or you get that, and I think it was really the genius of Matt Damon. I mean, not Matt Damon, Nolan, is
yeah,
when you see at the end at Troy that she was the one who was, in the form of a human as, the god
yeah,
Athena. I think that portrayed a huge theme of the movie, and that's when I felt something for her character. Yeah.
100%. That was smart by him because that was like a controversy from the beginning. Like Zendaya shouldn't be playing that role to begin with, but it was Matt Damon's view of Athena, which is interesting.
Yeah, no, true. Well, I was curious what because I mean we can speak also a lot about this and we'll sum it
Yeah.
up. But like thematically, what was something that stood out to you? Because there was a lot of themes in this. Did you have anything in particular that touched you?
Honestly, the whole time, like with like the religion thing, the Greek religion, and law, law of Zeus, like that really stuck with me, and all the way till the end when Odysseus, Matt Damon, comes in back as a beggar, and it just tied into the whole theme of you treat people with kindness just in case they could be a god walking around, and uh, he's there, and they ask him if he's a god, and he says no, but he reveals himself. They all kind of view him as a god, even though he's not a god, and it just was like an interesting dynamic, and how just Odysseus as a character treats people with kindness and seems like a pretty good, honorable guy throughout, but breaks Zeus's law like pretty frequently. Goes against the
Mm-hmm.
gods, does these things. So it's like this back and forth with that, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's one of the things that made me like his performance and character more. And I think they did touch obviously still within it a lot in the book, but I think Nolan filmed it very masterfully too, because I mean you root for Odysseus. You know he's a good guy, especially to his soldiers and to his family, the way he's living his life in these journeys. But then at the same time, you see how naive and prideful he is. So you get those layers where he's not just a perfect person throughout all of it. And to me, the most the most interesting thing was the ending that he switched compared to the book. In the book, the ending when he's reflecting, it's more the victory of
Yeah,
winning over Troy and stuff. But when he ends this one, it's with the horse burning at the end, and that reflection of the sins that we committed require a price to be paid. Him understanding the destruction that he caused in one place by being the trickster of the horse, and seeing the destruction of his own army, his own combatants and friends.
Yeah.
Like, so he's fulfilling the price that has to be paid for his sins, and then finally coming to grips to what he learned from those moments, and how is he gonna change that. And even though he says like, oh, we don't need destruction, but then like 10 minutes later he kills like everyone.
Yeah.
So like there's a couple things like here and then that are contradictive, but
yeah, it's
I think
a
it
back
was
and forth thing. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that horse, the horse thing, like he's battling with, it's Zeus's law. Like they're offering this horse to them as like a gift, but they're just hiding in it and just to kill them all. It's just like the morality of that. And he knows it's wrong, and that's why at the end he essentially exiles himself and lets Tom Holland, the son, become king, which I think that's different from in the book. I'm not sure. But
I think so too. I know I need to refresh it from there, but yeah, I think it's what I appreciate is that Nolan is so great at capturing a certain emotion and a certain presence of like that doesn't even have to reflect, let's say, whatever political party, but it's more so like in the history of the world, there's always a high and fall of like different people and where we come from, like, with between wars. And for him just saying that like we need to look at the brighter side, the dawn of the horizon on the end to like fix our mistakes, not like repeat those past. And I think that I'm appreciative of how he came about that without it feeling forced.
Yeah, no, for sure. How about there's a lot of cool like sequences and scenes in this one.
Yeah.
Is there any? I know I could like name a few that stand out. Is there like one for you that is just like wow, like I'll remember that for like a while?
Who knew that Nolan had such an imagination when it comes to like body horror about her just body dysmorphia? I don't know if that one got you too, but Cersei's scene, what to me was a masterful like editing combination, cinematography, and just visual storytelling in the end. When you go between Matt Damon's character going hunting for his men, and then you see his soldiers being hunted without them knowing, and the intercuts between those, it gets your adrenaline pumping because as soon as they get into that house, that's not okay to be. There's some wicked stuff going up in there. And as soon as he makes that initial impact with the bow to the deer, and then you see them eat that meat, as soon as the cuts and then they're going right into the pig transmorphia. Oh, that got me.
That was definitely a standout. Just like disturbing, like I'm just sitting there, just like with the face, just like cringing, just like what am I watching right now? And just them just eating the food and just stuffing their face, disgusting. And I don't know the actress's name, but she was like fantastic. She played Cersei.
Yes.
That was the witch. Just like great. Just like really bought her story and why she's doing that stuff and. Fantastic stuff.
Revealing the truths about people by them becoming the creatures that they are was a very clever way of how, and she sold that performance. She's also, I think, easily getting nominated for 2 minutes worth of being in a film.
No,
I think she's going to be nominated for something.
I could see it.
Did you have a sequence or a scene that?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like everyone's gonna like pick this, but the Cyclops scene was just insane. Again, also tying into like the horror thing, like it felt like a horror sequence, just like they're stepping into this dark cave and they see the cheese on the wall, which is like funny. It's just like, oh, decent, look at all this cheese. And they're like, yeah, we should get out of here. And Matt Damon's just like, yeah, we'll stick around, Zeus's law, they'll
some good cheese,
they'll accept us. And then this thing just walks in, and it's like, holy moly. And just the way it looked, like, just a very unique take on a Cyclops. And I guess they used, like, animatronics for it. That's why it looks so, like, weird and, like, real, I guess,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, did you know it was a 50-foot animatronic, like, practical effect that he did for that?
That's insane.
It's mind-blowing. I personally when I saw it, I didn't expect the face to be so twisted and contorted, And it felt almost more realistic to like that's. I mean, you think about a certain mythical creature. I don't think it would be perfect looking. So yeah, I think
Yeah,
that was like such a cool frame to
yeah,
it. And it gave me, as soon as I saw it, I was like, this is Pan's Labyrinth. I'm seeing Guillermo del Toro's face on here from the
yeah,
eye thing. So it was so interesting to see Nolan jump so far out of his comfort zone between such like a realistic approach that he usually does to things and
yeah,
creating something so mythical or building on something so mythical like that.
yeah. No, 100%. Just like the effects in general, the practical effects in this movie. That's what the comparison to like Lord of the Rings is where I agree. Where you can see it
Mhm.
throughout the movie, just like
Yes.
the detail and the time put into some of these things, the filming locations, the sets they build on already, like that cave. Like they traveled to an actual cave and filmed in it, and
Hmm.
just super cool stuff there.
Yeah, like everything. That's something that's always going to make him stand out from any director of this time is his use of practical effects. And to that extent, I know that they even the buildings and stuff that they captured, those were practical effects. Those coming
Yeah,
down in Troy, every time they were on the ocean, they were actually on oceans. I know there's a couple scenes where they were on a blue screen lot, I believe in Universal, doing some of that. But a lot of it being out in the open ocean and dealing with those harsh winds and like weather,
yeah.
right? It's I mean it's something that you don't see in movies
No,
anymore.
100%. You just buy what's going on. Like I heard like they train said cast on the boat like how to row. Like they had rowing lessons
That's
because like
cool.
how hard it is to like do those giant oars and the water onto the boat. Um, and then the practical effects side, you notice like the scene Matt Damon's looking out into the ocean and the two dolphins pop up.
Mm.
Like these
Yes.
two dolphins
Didn't,
that come out of the water.
was
They
that
got that on
practical?
film. Yeah, they
No
got it on
way.
film. They're filming and just dolphins popped up. Like that's insane because they're just in the middle of the ocean.
Who knew that Nolan had fans of dolphins? Even
Yeah,
they were making a guest appearance. Okay, I was.
cameos.
I know. Did you name him? Maybe. Uh, uh, for some other fun facts I compiled together, just I want to hear your guess, and same for the audience. If you want to make a guess, put it in the comments too. How many background actors do you think there were in the Troy sequence?
Ooh, it was a pretty big battle. I'll say like 150.
7,000.
7,000?
7,000 over the whole entire Troy sequence.
Wow,
Yeah.
7,000. See, like that's interesting. Though I liked a lot of the battle scenes, for whatever reason, they still kind of like I don't know how to explain it. Kind of still felt like smaller to me. Like if that makes sense. Like the grand
Yeah.
scale of it. Like I don't know. Like it also felt empty at the same time. Like not to compare it to Lord of the Rings, but like there's a plenty of battles I can think of where it just like
Hmm.
didn't feel the same. I don't know. Maybe he's not going for that. I don't know. Like in the book, how the battle, how big it actually is, but it just didn't feel
Hmm.
as grandiose of me. The filming of it and like everything was great, but that kind of fell short for me.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I think we're used to seeing that stuff. And not all the time, but in big movies, when it comes to like war type settings, we have Avengers, and when you see them all together, there's a huge
Yeah,
battle sequence. Lord of the Rings, war movies like 1917. You have these huge, intense sequences where you can see like 1,000 multiple characters in there. And I agree. I think there could have been a couple more scenes to emphasize that. And then just taking a moment to think about what you're saying, since we were almost seeing it at least like 70% of the movie in Damon's perspective, Odysseus's, I feel like the more I think about it, almost makes sense because as he's reflecting towards the end, when we see more sequences of Troy towards the end, we're getting more of those personal, intimate shots. We're seeing not the grand scope of what's happening to the city, but we're seeing, unfortunately, the women and children that are being slaughtered.
yeah.
Um,
That's
we're
no, that's
seeing
fair.
Athena. So I think it's supposed to make the audience feel a little bit more of that weight and burden, rather than if we saw a large scope, it would be almost like care. Like we could let it slide by. It's just an army fighting another army.
Yeah.
But and also
No,
the
okay.
chaos of them not being.
Yeah, that's a fair take. Like maybe I'm just spoiled with the giant battles, but that definitely
But
makes a lot of sense. And like kind of want that intimate feeling of what's going on. You don't know what's going on in the grand scheme necessarily because you're in this kind of one character's shoes.
Mm. What do we? Because there was also a lot of these too. Did you have a couple planting and payoff moments that you really liked? I had a couple myself, but I wanted to hear from you.
Probably everyone liked this, but the dog, like his dog, just like gets him
Oh,
as like a little puppy. It sucks. They threw the first puppy off the edge, ripped first dog, but
I,
they just like tossed him off. He's like,
I
no,
know.
I
You
want
sound
that
like
one. It's like, okay, let's not throw them all off the cliff.
I know.
But it was just sweet. Like they're mean to this dog, and he's just waiting for Odysseus to come back, and he comes back, and just his tail's wagging, he's hyped, and he
Yeah.
just dies. He can finally rest in peace. Like that was
Hmm.
sweet. Like probably not like a major thematical payoff type thing, but that was just stick in my head. Everyone loves
Yeah.
animals, and
Oh, totally. But I think those are those moments. Nolan's smart. He's like, that's a not just for this, but it's a bankable moment in a movie. In something that's so dark, you want to have something a little bit lighthearted. So seeing something
100%.
like yeah, everyone's an animal person, or most people are. So it warms your heart to see that stuff.
Yeah.
Dude,
How about you?
the bowstring pull. I loved that whole sequence.
Yeah.
Dude, let's give a shout out to Ludwig,
Great
the music composer.
soundtrack.
I mean, he
Yeah.
did absolutely fantastic, and I did a little bit of research and heard too that he and Nolan both decided they didn't want to do an orchestral piece for this because an orchestra wasn't a thing in that era. They didn't use like orchestras for music stuff. They had just separate bronze instruments and stuff. So they did a lot of those of what was during that age, all the music and the instruments. So it was really fascinating to feel that weight, and not like it even took me out because I don't know what a bronze instrument sounds like initially.
Yeah.
But when those moments and of pulling the bowstring to warn his enemies to give them a chance,
Yeah.
and then the initial sound within all that, it got my like heart, like my goosebumps everywhere on it again too.
That was a
Yeah.
great sequence just from, yeah, like you said, the payoff of it, and just that whole ending scene. You're just like, everyone's gonna fail, and you're just waiting for him to step up and do it, and just like it's about to happen.
Oh yeah. Did you have it too? We had people like literally clapping when he hooked it up and when he did the
Yeah.
bowstring and then he shoots
Yeah.
through. Everyone was
I
like,
heard it.
yeah.
I heard a couple like, yeah.
Yeah. There's those moments you just can't live without unless you're at a
Yeah.
movie theater. Like that's what brings everyone together.
Yeah.
I love it.
100%. Any low points of the movie for you, like weaknesses or things that stood out in negative
Mhm.
ways?
I think I know it's kind of hard because like we've said, there was a couple moments where it was more the dialogue at certain points was dragged on, or the scenes to me were cutting in, and that was like in the earlier half a little bit too much. I will say I felt a little bit of a break between. It's when they're on Hades, and he's making that bloodbath, and he's the ghosts are there of his old fallen soldiers with his new ones there, and I think that was visually an absolutely stunning scene. I think it was something very Nolan, his coloring within his blue tint coloring. The costume designs were amazing, and you got that eerie feeling. But there was something between the interaction between Damon and I'm forgetting the name of Elliot Page's character, and I think they did a really Synod or
Sinon, yeah, something
Sinon.
like that. Yeah.
And I think they did a good job with the character. I think, to me, maybe I just couldn't understand some of their dialogue. It was hard to hear, and maybe because they had stuff in their mouth, so it was like, sure, that was a tough thing to act. But I didn't really capture that scene as much as maybe they were hoping for. Whether the plot device with it, the only part I got that I thought worked was the go to the West and honor your men. As they start charging. I think to that point it was good, but leading up to it, whether it was shot a little bit differently or audio different, I think that would have done a lot more for me.
Okay.
What about you?
Uh,
I know it's minor.
Okay, yeah. Okay. Speaking of, Elliot Page. Like, not to be controversial, and I don't care really like what people do on their own time, but I just don't think that was a good casting decision. Like, unfortunately, I see Elliot Page as a woman essentially, and just as the character like supposed to be this soldier, like they show Sinon as like a boy, and like we're supposed to believe like that boy like grows up to be this character, and it's like Elliot Page still has kind of a feminine voice, so it takes me out of the movie a bit. It doesn't like ruin the movie by any means, and people should still watch it regardless of like their belief on that whole thing, but it does take you out of the movie for a bit, and you just don't want that like in your film. And I don't know, it is what it is. The rest of the casting I think is fine, but that's just like the one pick that I feel like they should have just went for something else. And like I said, it doesn't ruin the film by any means, but yeah.
No, I see what you mean. I think what would have even helped their character more is like I think they needed action more than just dialogue. I think even if we got a sequence of them in the fight beforehand, and even if it was like trained, I just think there was something. I agree. Something just a little bit more I could have expected. A stronger performance. Who I was surprised though is Helen. I actually liked Helen and her her twin. I can't remember the twin's name, but she was. I thought she hit like the short time that she had, as especially the twin. I think she did a very good job portraying the fear of like being stuck in this household and the abuse that she had after her twin sister's betrayal against Agamemnon.
Yeah, no, that actress did a good job. A lot of people hated that casting choice too. Perfectly good, perfectly fine. And no, I don't think the twin, that's not in like the original books. So the way he changes it in that sense, it just like everyone preconceptions of the issue would cause in the film, it doesn't cause an issue then because of the way he went. But yeah, like apparently Helen's supposed to be like the most beautiful woman throughout the land, and that's why like the battle of Troy, like all this stuff happens. But
yes,
yeah.
No, I'm with you. I did. If there was one person or one character I wanted a stronger performance from, I agree. I think it's Sinan. I liked where they were going with the backstory on it and how they introduced it with Antinous' character. But I agree. I think there could have been a stronger.
Yeah, overlay. Like that payback is nice. Like with the drawing sticks and
I
he hands
love
it
that
back
piece.
to Pattinson at the end. Like
yes. Oh, sorry. Do you want to say more on there?
No, go ahead.
But did you notice too? I loved how it started the movie with the homeless person with the cloak talking to Penelope in that first party, and how it ended with also Odysseus being that. Like, I thought that was a smart and clever way that he started the film as almost like acknowledging Penelope's grace as well and welcoming like her welcoming presence, hospitality. I feel like that stuck true to her hope that Odysseus was coming back, because that's something that they always welcomed together in their household, is whoever was there to make him feel hospitable. And so when Odysseus comes back there, I think it's that beautiful planting payoff that she's still honoring that thing that they decided together.
Yeah. No,
of taking
100%.
in who she thought was a homeless person.
Yeah, no, Anne Hathaway did a good job in general, like portraying emotions like that with like the little screen time that she got, just hiding behind that little like wall. So
yeah. Did you get, or maybe this is, I could be reading too far into it, but when Penelope and Pattinson were talking behind that curtain, the camera where she was weaving the cloth and fabric together, I thought it was like so visually and like such a great story device, because to me it felt like a veil between us and the characters, and could have been literally a veil between like the marriage proposal that they want to go to too, but also we're on opposite ends where one is like waging on war for her, like in her war there, and she's waging war like trying to protect her heart and Odysseus at the same time. So they're going through this conflict between each other through a cool visual lens.
Yeah. No, yeah, I mean,
I could be reading into that, but
go as deep as you want. I mean, that's your interpretation. That's an interesting take, I feel like.
Yeah, no, I could be totally off
Nolan
with
is
it.
going for that. Nolan does a lot of stuff. So
he does. Seriously, what do you have anything else you wanted to highlight, whether Nolan or editing or characters?
I mean, it was just like we said, it's just an overall really good movie. I mean, people should go out and see it, and like you said earlier, the movie experience is just different, and it being filmed in IMAX, like you should probably go see it in IMAX. Um,
Yes.
Everything, the sound besides the dialogue, like the quiet sound at the beginning, the dialogue and sound was amazing. Like my seat was like rumbling, like ocean
Yes.
sequences. The I forgot to mention on it the Cyclops, the when he like
Oh my
roars
gosh. Yeah.
after they poke him in the eye. It was like holy moly, like the whole
Yeah.
theater like erupted. There was such a agonizing like
Hmm.
weird sound that it made, and it's amazing.
Yeah, no, I thought that scream was actually going to last. Usually, I feel like in movies they you scream for just a second, and you're like, okay, you're going to get the initial like fear, but no, like they held on to that for a while, and I was like, oh no,
Yeah.
this is agitating me. I'm getting like freaked out by
Oh
it.
yeah, you're like I almost felt bad for the thing. I'm just
Yeah.
like, dude, they just like did this thing dirty. Like,
They were just trying to be a shepherd, herding their sheep. They just wanted their goat milk, sheep or the sheep milk.
after all that, Odysseus like still shoots him with the arrow, like
I know.
the thing, like what a
Oh,
prick.
I will say that was something that like bothered me a bit in the movie. I think it happened. Like I understand the reasoning why, especially because you see the helmet of like one of his fallen soldiers.
Yeah.
But I think it happened so quickly, and I didn't get to see his facial reaction of like the anger or like what he was feeling. You just see him from behind just pull the arrow, and I'm just like,
Yeah, just
it happened a little too quick for me. Kind of
like took away from his character. Like he's kind of just being a prick there, like against Zeus's law. Like
Yeah.
why are you shooting him? Like he's already blinded. You only got to shoot him.
I know. Ridiculous. Oh, and one more thing I was curious if, that I just, or I thought was fascinating. I don't know if you would think so too. Is Nolan was just doing an interview with someone, and they were asking him about the ending, and or like certain movies that inspired him, and he was bringing up Citizen Kane, of like how that's a perfect movie, start to end. Have you seen that one?
I've not,
It's, re-
unfortunately.
it's a good one. If I think it's 41, Orson Welles.
Yeah.
But it's a fantastic movie, and the last shot there ends with a burning piece, kind of like how the Trojan horse is burning. So they both have like similar endings, but one is like the destruction of innocence. One is, obviously the destruction of like guilt and shame and understanding like what the sins that you bring carry, and how we can rebuild from it. But he brought up that he didn't even recognize that until that interview. He's like, oh, I guess I did kind of pull a little bit from not necessarily that movie, but finding that
Yeah.
same interpretation of a theme of destruction. And I was like, that's cool. I always like some
Yeah.
good film little
Oh,
history
yeah.
about.
Yeah. I gotta watch Citizen Kane behind them.
Yeah.
My classic movies.
Yeah, no, well, maybe we could do a little tiny brief on the Citizen
Yeah.
Kane at some point.
But yeah, I mean, we could talk for hours about any Nolan
Yeah.
movie. There's just so much that goes into his filming and just directing. So maybe we could just finish off on just like an overall review out of 10 or out of 5, however you
Yeah, let's.
review movies.
I think out of 10 is usually how I do. I think 10 is very, very tough to get. I almost feel I don't want to say it's like one of those impossible things to get,
That's-
but it's
That's
dang
perfect.
near.
Yeah.
It's exact. Yeah. So I would give this a solid 9, like a very hard solid 9, and close to 9.5, but right there.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I think number that pops in my head is 8.5. I think it's one of Nolan's better films he's had. Maybe we'll rank those someday as well on here. I think it's just like a tier below some of his like best works, like Dark Knight, or maybe on like the same level Interstellar, but really good, obviously.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I think I need to also give it a second watch, because sometimes a second
Yeah.
watch always helps me. So I could change my viewpoint whether I go higher or lower, but I do think it's going to be one of those movies that's talked about of the decade, for sure.
Okay, before this, one more thing that popped in my head.
Yeah.
So you say like the rewatch. Does it have a lot of rewatchability? For me, the 3 hours, it felt long for me personally. I know some people have said like if the pacing was decent, I didn't care for the pacing at times. So for me, the 3 hours did feel dragged out in certain spots. How do you feel?
Mhm. Yeah, I feel like that first for the first act. I think the second and third act were tackled very well. I kind of wish. Let me know what you think of this too. Pacing wise, and how they did the transitions. They did mostly the transitions between Odysseus and his family when each of them would bring up each other. And I think that was a little bit too easy on the nose. You know, Odysseus would be like, say something about his son or Penelope, and it'd cut right to them. I feel like that was too easy on the nose as transitions and in terms of pacing. But I will say the second and third act, to me, I thought were basically flawless. I think the first act just had that initial hurdle of getting on the treadmill. But I see what you mean again. It's one of those 3-hour movies that I would rather rewatch in theaters, maybe not so much at home. So while it's out here, I have that rewatchability. I don't know how to say yet until it gets home.
Okay. No, that's true. And obviously, to be fair, there's a lot to put in, like a lot in that original book to fit into a movie. So it's like, I can't be too hard on Nolan. But yeah, I wish there's just more time, just some of like those middle sequences versus so much at the beginning, and even the end, like, felt a little long for me. But, you know,
Yeah,
again, not many negatives to this film, but we got to find some things.
true. And one last thing too before is I wanted to shout out, Jennifer, the editor, because she did absolutely amazing work for, I feel like, how difficult of a story and grasp this was to do. I know there was 90 hours worth of film during this whole entire thing, and she had to choose exactly what would fit the story within her 3-hour window on those IMAX formats. And I feel like for how much the complexity of it is going back and forth between the time jumps and what matters, like, she nailed it. I almost want to guarantee that she's going to win an Oscar personally.
Okay, shout out Jennifer.
That's what I'm going for.
Yeah. I mean, I can't wait for the extended 90-hour version of the
Odyssey. That'll be when I come into work the next 4 days later. Just blush. I'm gonna have tape over my eye or uplifting my eyes. Yeah, you thought the 4-hour director's cuts of Lord of the Rings were tough. Yeah, try 90 hours of Nolan.
Imagine. But yeah, okay. I think that's it.
Yeah. We want to thank you guys, though, for joining us on our first podcast, reviewing the Odyssey. We'd love to hear your thoughts. If you guys have any, too, feel free to put them down in the comments and reach out to us. We would get back on those.